Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel, Evie's Lively Languages. I am Evie, and welcome to my first video. So, as this is my first video, I just wanted to do a little bit of an introduction on myself, my channel, why I learn languages, and why this ties into the channel at all. So, I am considered a polyglot by definition. I use the very strong hand quotes because to me, a polyglot is somebody who is proficient in all of their foreign languages, whereas I am learning many foreign languages enough to be a polyglot if I were proficient at every single one of them. Not that I'm not proficient in some of them and that I don't plan to be, but at the level I'm currently at for a couple of them, I would definitely not call myself proficient. I would not last 5 minutes in a conversation. So, to each their own. If you consider yourself a polyglot because you know basics in every language, that's fine. Think self, great for you, I love that. For myself though, I like to consider myself a language learner, but for me, in general, what makes languages worth learning and the reason why I aspire to learn so many is the people. It's people in general, cultures. I want to connect with all kinds of different cultures, all kinds of different experiences, and sometimes in order to do that, you have to be on the same level with somebody communication-wise. I know there's plenty of people and plenty of videos I'm sure you guys have seen where you can connect. You can connect with just body language and experience and acts of kindness a lot of the time. Absolutely, I love that more than anybody. But I also love that connection that you can feel with somebody in speaking their native tongue or them speaking your native tongue to you. There's just something very sweet about that. So, that's something I aspire to do. I also feel like you learn a lot about different cultures through their language because language is culture and culture is language, and they go so deeply hand in hand that every little colloquial phrase, I can't speak English, that's okay, but every little phrase ties into something about the culture, and you'll see how people perceive the world through their language and by learning their language. You can even see it in grammatical structures, and honestly, I think that's fascinating. I'm a linguistic nerd, quite frankly. Sorry. But on this channel, we don't just talk about that. I promise I won't bore people. I prefer to talk about language learning in general, experiences, routines. We'll also talk about tips and resources and so much more, so if you're interested in that, go ahead and subscribe and ring that bell. I'm just kidding, I'm not going to be one of those. I'm not going to do all that. But, I mean, if you are interested, I will be posting weekly, so if you need notifications to do that, go for it. If not, check in on Fridays. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about what languages I learn and why I'm learning them. And feel free to drop your languages and your experiences in the comments. I would love to hear about it. That's what this is all about, is creating a community with like-minded people or like-hobbied people. So the first language that I learned, quote-unquote, would be technically I began with Spanish. I am still not fluent to this day because this was the first language that I started learning, so I really struggled with my personal learning curve for many years. But for the most part, the reasons that I got into learning this language was to connect with a lot of the people around me. I grew up with a lot of native Spanish speakers. A lot of my partners have been native Spanish speakers, and their families as well, and sometimes that was my only way to connect with people. So that was a large drive in that. I also wanted to feel more connected with a culture that was so close to home. So that's that. My current partner is also a native Spanish speaker, so I enjoy that personal connection that we have that ability to communicate in more than one language. Secondly is American Sign Language, or ASL. I began learning this when I was 13 years old online. Started using YouTube. Bill Vickers, if you guys have ever heard of him, he's an amazing, absolute champ. But I started learning initially because I saw the language and I saw how visual it was, and I was like, this is amazing, I love this language, and I fell into it, and I decided to become an interpreter because I would be working with something that I enjoyed. But the deeper I got into it, I realized how much of a need there was for more qualified interpreters. So I wanted to put my all into that. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I actually have one more semester until I graduate, at which point I will be transferring to a uni and getting more education in it. Go system. That's not sarcastic. People, we need to be qualified, please, in this field. So that's my main reason for that. But I fell in with the deaf crowd and deaf culture, and I love them. They're so funny, they're so visual, they're amazing people, and it's just been a really good experience for me. They're a very wonderful community. If you ever get a chance to interact with deaf people, please learn some basic sign at least, so that you can communicate with accessibility for a larger group of people. Next we have Japanese. I actually got into this because of the writing system. I thought it was gorgeous, and I just absolutely wanted to read literature because, once again, I am a nerd. But I wanted to get into it because of that, and because I love the sound of the language. I've heard so many good things about the culture. I know a lot of people on the Western side of things enjoy Japanese anime and things like that. So I was never personally like a big anime fan, but I started watching more of it as I got into the language. So I still am at a pretty basic level with this, but I do want to continue to as close as I can achieve to fluency. Lastly is Thai, actually. So there are a few native speakers of Thai around me. I've heard the language, but honestly I got into this mostly because they are the nicest people I've ever met. Thai people are so genuinely kind. They're kind, they're giving, they're always smiling, and I just love that about their culture. And so eventually I want to go to Thailand and visit and see landmarks and interact with people and everything. But yeah, so I got into Thai mainly because of that, and I'm in the very beginning stages of that. I'm working on the writing system, which is complex, but absolutely makes sense once you start getting into it more, which I'm sure I'll probably post some videos about that for those of you who are interested. Those are my 4 languages, as well as my native tongue, which is English, and Poly makes 5, so polyglot, hence the word, right? I know English, I swear I do. But yeah, I just wanted to do a little introduction video, kind of talk about what we're going to talk about on this channel and why I got into this community at all. So if you're interested in learning more about language learning routines, advice, tips, resources, and working with a community of like-minded people who are interested in the same things, subscribe, click the bell for notifications on weekly updates, which I will post on Fridays. Bienvenidos a la comunidad, and I hope to see you soon. Bye, guys.